7 years. That's how long Tracy and I had been married. If you believe the movies, year 7 is when things start to crack. The infamous 7-year itch. I always figured that was just Hollywood nonsense. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. We had a son, Bobby, 3 years old. A house in the suburbs. She had her job at the call center. I was managing logistics at a warehouse downtown. We had our rhythms. Our routines. I thought we were safe. So yeah, I planned something simple but thoughtful for our anniversary. A quiet dinner. A printed photo of us from our honeymoon. We were sunburned and laughing like idiots on some beach. I'd booked a weekend at the same coastal inn where we stayed that first time. Nostalgic? Maybe. But I thought it'd mean something. She told me she had to stay late at work. I didn't question it. Tracy's hours were always weird. I got home early to set everything up. Walked into our bedroom. Opened her laptop to find that photo. And found something else. A folder. Titled, Work Pics. Cute. I clicked it. What I saw hit me in the gut. There she was, Tracy, in a series of photos with some guy I didn't recognize. Smiling, pressed up close, lips locked. His hand halfway under her shirt in one of them. They weren't hiding. It wasn't some dark hotel room. These were taken at what looked like a party. Around people. Like it was just normal. For a second, I actually thought maybe I was looking at the wrong person. Like my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. I didn't even hear her come in. "Oh hey, you're home early," she said, dropping her bag by the door. I didn't say a word. I just turned the laptop toward her. She froze. Then blinked. "Where'd you get that?" That was her first question. Not, "Brian, I can explain." Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "Where did I get it?" I stared at her. "Seriously? That's what you're worried about? It's not what it looks like," she said, like she was reading off a script. "You're making out with some guy, Tracy. In multiple photos. How else am I supposed to take it?" She stepped closer. "It wasn't like that. We were just playing around. It's not like I slept with him or anything. It was flirty. That's all." I laughed. Quietly. The kind of laugh that tastes like blood. "Oh, well, if it's just flirtation in front of strangers, I guess it doesn't count, right?" She crossed her arms like she was offended. "Come on, Brian. Don't be dramatic. Everyone flirts. It's not cheating." I took a deep breath. "Who is he?" "I'm not telling you." I stood up. "You're not telling me. You'll just overreact." "Overreact?" I repeated. "To you being in some guy's lap, with your tongue down his throat, while strangers take pictures? You think I'm the one out of line here?" She looked annoyed. "You're twisting this. You've been emotionally distant for months. You work too much. You never." "Stop." I said it quiet but firm. "Just stop." We stood there for a long moment. Then I said, "I'm leaving." "Wait." "What?" "Where are you going?" "Somewhere that doesn't stink of lies." "Brian, don't be ridiculous." "It was one mistake." "No. A mistake is forgetting to take the trash out. This was deliberate. Calculated. And you didn't even try to come clean. You buried it in a folder like I was too stupid to find it." She stepped forward. "You can't just walk away. Bobby." "Don't," I said. "Don't use our son as a shield. I'll be in touch. About him. That's it." And I left. Didn't slam the door. Didn't scream. Just grabbed my keys and walked out. I ended up at a cheap motel 2 exits off the freeway. The kind with buzzing lights and sheets that smell like disinfectant. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at nothing. Not crying. Just hollow. It's a weird kind of pain when the person you trusted most turns into a stranger overnight. But trust me, it's the kind of pain you don't forget. You ever sit in a motel room and wonder where your life went off the rails? I did. That weekend, after I walked out, I stayed in a place off Route 16. No frills, no breakfast, just a faded sign and a deadbolt that stuck when you turned it. I chose it because no one would think to look for me there, including her. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet. I kept checking my phone, even though I didn't want to hear from her. It was habit more than hope. I didn't cry much. Just once. Friday night. One of those silent breakdowns where your chest tightens and the tears just fall without warning. I stared at the ceiling until I passed out. In the morning, I ordered bad coffee and worse eggs from a nearby diner and thought about the life we had built. Thought about how it all started. We weren't some whirlwind romance. Tracy and I met through mutual friends in Michigan. We were both a little older, early 30s, when we got serious. No time for games. We talked about marriage on our third date. Laughed about it, then realized we meant it. When I got offered a job as production manager at a new R&D facility 2 states away, it felt like a step forward. Good salary. Stability. I asked if she'd move with me. She didn't even hesitate. That was 5 years ago. She picked out the house. It had just enough space to grow into. Bobby was born a year later. I wanted her to stay home with him, not because I'm old-fashioned, but because we could afford it, and I thought it'd make things easier. She agreed, though she said she'd miss her work friends. Funny thing about those friends. They became our circle by default. We go to barbecues, house parties. A lot of laughing, too many matching sweaters around Christmas. I never really clicked with the guys, but I didn't mind. I was there for her. Now, they were the ones messaging me. Around noon that Saturday, my phone lit up. First Cassidy. Then Tom. Then Jen. All mutuals from her job. Her Keo crew, as she liked to call them, named after some weird internal team code. They all said the same thing in different words. Tracy told us what happened. She's really hurting. We think you should come talk things through. Funny, right? She hadn't sent me a single word. Not one call. Not one apology. But apparently, she had no problem telling our private business to half the damn state. It wasn't just insulting. It was infuriating. How does someone betray you, then hand out pieces of the story like candy at a parade? I wasn't even sure what version they heard. Maybe I was the cold, neglectful husband. Maybe she framed it like a harmless mistake. All I knew was, I'd been living in a motel for 2 nights, feeling like a kicked dog, and my own wife hadn't bothered to tell me what the hell was going on in her head. And yet, her best friend Cassidy invited me to some friendly dinner. I declined. Politely. Told her if anyone wanted to talk, they could meet me on neutral ground, somewhere public, like Angus Steakhouse. No closed doors. No friendly ambushes. They agreed. Reluctantly. Part of me didn't want to go at all. But I needed to know what I was up against. I needed to hear, from their mouths, what Tracy was saying. I wanted names, answers, and maybe just a little revenge. The next day, I ironed a clean shirt in that crappy motel room and stared at myself in the mirror. You're not crazy, I told my reflection. You're not the villain here. Didn't feel convincing. I drove to the steakhouse early, parked a block away, and walked in 10 minutes before the reservation. They were already there. Of course they were. Tracy included. She stood when she saw me. Tried to smile. I didn't return it. If it's all the same to you, I said, I'll sit at the far end of the table, away from her. There was an awkward pause. Cassidy jumped in, trying to smooth things over. Of course, Brian. Jared, can you shift down, please? Brian, your dinner's already covered. Order whatever you want. How generous. Buy the guy a steak, and maybe he'll forget his wife cheated. I sat down, waited until everyone had ordered. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out copies of the photos, the ones from Tracy's laptop. I figured if we're going to talk, I said, we should all be on the same page. I passed them around like playing cards, each one showing her with the mystery man. You all seem pretty invested in Tracy and me working things out. That's rich, considering she shared our problems with you before she even talked to me. Silence. Maybe you can do me one favor. Just one. Who is he? I tapped the photo. She refuses to tell me. Maybe one of you can help. Still nothing. They just stared. Some looked down. Even Cassidy kept her mouth shut. That told me everything I needed to know. Right, I said, standing up. Guess no one here is actually interested in fixing anything. Thanks for the dinner. Tracy tried to call out as I walked away. I didn't look back. I'm not a fan of theatrics. Never have been. But if someone drags your name through the mud and invites the audience, at some point you've got two options. Sit there quietly and let it happen, or step into the spotlight and set the record straight. So when Cassidy texted again saying, "We really think it would help if you sat down with us. Tracy will be there, but she just wants to clear the air," I agreed. But on my terms. Public place. Neutral ground. No corners, no living rooms. And I don't want to sit next to her, I said. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a reservation confirmation for the Brickhouse Grill, the kind of place where people who don't normally tip 25% pretend they're classy for one night. I wore a clean button-up, but didn't bother with a tie. I wasn't there to impress anyone. I got there 10 minutes early and asked the host if I could be seated at the far end of the table. He looked confused. It's a party of 7. You're all together, right? Sure, I said. But I'm not here to hold hands. The man shrugged, led me to a long table, and sat me at the far end. A few minutes later, the rest of the cast arrived. Tracy was with them, hair freshly styled, makeup carefully done, fake nervous energy written all over her face. She looked like someone walking into a job interview, not a woman who blew up her marriage. When she saw me, she gave that half smile, the kind that used to melt me. Now it just looked like a politician's grin. Hey, she said softly. I didn't respond. I nodded at Cassidy, who had clearly orchestrated the whole thing. The others started small talk. Tom joked about the traffic. Jenna said something about how it's been such a weird week. I just sat there, folding and unfolding my napkin, watching the performance unfold. When the waitress came by, I ordered water and said I wasn't hungry. Someone tried to make a joke. What, no steak? I didn't laugh. And then I spoke. I brought something for everyone, I said, reaching into my coat pocket and pulling out 5 manila envelopes. I slid one in front of each person at the table. Cassidy blinked. What's this? Photos, I said. Tracy knows the ones. Her face changed. Just a flicker, like a crack in the porcelain. I figured since we're all playing open book here, I continued, it's only fair you all see the pages I've been reading. They started opening the envelopes, one by one. The silence that followed was loud. Eyes darting, throats clearing, forks suddenly frozen halfway to mouths. I leaned back in my chair and let the tension build. Then I looked at Tracy. So, who is he? No answer. I turned to Cassidy. You know? She looked like she wanted to disappear into her seat. I don't think it's our place. It became your place when you all decided to get involved in my marriage. When you started texting me unsolicited advice. When she cried on your couch but never once called her husband. I turned to Jenna. You know? She shook her head quickly. I didn't ask for details. But you had an opinion anyway. I looked back at Tracy. She was staring at the table, jaw tight, eyes glistening. You can't even say his name, I said. After all this. After I walked out of our house. After I slept in a motel while you played PR victim to your little inner circle. Tracy opened her mouth. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed. Too late. No one said anything. So I stood up. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone here had a shred of honesty left. But this is a joke. Tracy reached out a hand as I pushed in my chair. Brian, please. Just sit. We're here to talk. No. You're here to save face. There's a difference. I looked at each of them. I know whose side you're on. I'm just glad I figured it out before wasting another day pretending we're in the same story. I left a 20 on the table for my water, turned around, and walked out. The cold hit me as soon as I stepped outside, but it felt cleaner than the air in that room. No one followed. And that silence? It was the most honest thing I'd heard all night. 2 days after the restaurant debacle, I got a text from Tracy. Can we talk? Just us. No drama. I didn't respond. 3 hours later, Cassidy messaged. Hey, Tracy's going through a lot. Maybe you could come by the house, just for a calm conversation? No pressure. Right. No pressure. Just like last time, where everyone sat around pretending to be therapists while ignoring the elephant dry humping the coffee table. Still, something in me itched to know what else they were hiding. I needed clarity. I needed proof. If I was going to dismantle this marriage, I wanted the truth under my own terms. So I said yes. I pulled into the driveway around 7 p.m. My own damn driveway. The lights were on. A couple of unfamiliar cars out front. I walked in and immediately felt it, the kind of hush that isn't peaceful, just staged. Tracy greeted me at the door, nervous smile plastered on like bad wallpaper. Thanks for coming, she said softly. I stepped inside. Cassidy was on the couch. So was Tom. Jenna. And then 2 more people I didn't recognize. And him. The man from the photos. Tall, fake tan, perfectly styled hair, expensive shirt with buttons open just enough to look accidentally sexy. Tracy cleared her throat. Brian, this is Elliot. He stood up, reached out his hand. I stared at it, didn't shake it, sat down instead. And this, she continued, gesturing to the woman next to him, is his wife, Lauren. I blinked. His wife? Lauren nodded, like she was a guidance counselor explaining puberty. We're in an open marriage. Elliot and I have been practicing ethical non-monogamy for years. Elliot chimed in, with the smug confidence of a man who drinks smoothies out of coconut shells. It's about honesty, transparency, deep trust. Tracy's been growing with us. Growing? That was the word he used. Like this was a yoga retreat, not the collapse of my family. Tracy sat beside me. Too close. I didn't know how to tell you, she said. I thought you wouldn't understand. I let the words hang. Then I asked calmly, so let me get this straight. You weren't cheating. You were experimenting with a married man behind my back. 4 months. No, it wasn't behind your back, she insisted. It was parallel. I wanted to bring you in. I just didn't know how. Lauren nodded along like this was a book club. Elliot leaned forward. We believe this can be transformative. A new kind of connection. I'd love to talk more with you. One-on-one, maybe. That's when I knew. This wasn't some apology. It was recruitment. A cult of self-justification, wrapped in buzzwords and scented candles. I smiled. Sure, I said. Let's talk. I reached into my coat pocket and clicked my phone. Voice memo running. Recording every word. If I couldn't make sense of this now, I'd listen to it later, with a lawyer. Elliot talked. A lot. About freedom. About how traditional marriage is. A prison. Tracy chimed in, parroting him like a freshman quoting a professor she had a crush on. Lauren said something about sacred polarity and decoupling shame from intimacy. I kept nodding. Calm. Detached. Inside, I was boiling. But I let them go on. Let them hang themselves with their own silky ropes. Until Cassidy noticed me fiddling with my phone. What's that? She asked. Nothing, I said. Just a note to myself. Trace's smile cracked. She lunged forward, grabbed the phone. Give me that. Tracy. She hit stop. Deleted the file. Just like that. Gone. Tom stood up. So did Elliot. I backed away, heart pounding. You set me up, I said. What the hell is this? No, Tracy said quickly. I just didn't want this taken out of context. You invited me here. You let this clown pitch me like a timeshare. And now you're deleting evidence? Elliot stepped closer. Maybe it's time to leave. Gladly, I said. But when I turned, Tom stood in front of the door. Just stood there, blocking it. I clenched my fists. You really want to do this? Cassidy got in between us. No one's hurting anyone, she said. Brian, just calm down. We're trying to help you understand. Help me, I barked. You people think you're enlightened? You're a bunch of cowards hiding behind catchphrases to justify betrayal. I shoved past Tom and walked out without another word. My hands were shaking when I got into the car. My voice recording was gone. But my memory wasn't. And neither was my conviction. This wasn't just a broken marriage anymore. This was war. That night, I didn't sleep. My body was tired, but my mind was running full throttle. The scene kept playing on a loop. Elliot's smug tone, Tracy's desperate grab for my phone, the way they all tried to sell betrayal as growth. I couldn't unsee it. Couldn't unhear it. So I did the only thing that made sense at 2 a.m. I got out of bed, made a pot of coffee strong enough to wake the dead, and opened my laptop. First stop, attorney directory. I didn't want a soft talker or someone who specialized in amicable splits. I wanted a fighter. I found one. Name was Gina Martell. Reputation: cutthroat, organized, zero patience for games. Left her a message that night. She called me back at 8:03 sharp the next morning. We talked for 40 minutes. I told her everything: the affair, the ambush, the attempt to delete evidence. She didn't blink. Do you have any assets in your name only? She asked. Yes. My retirement fund, the car, and the business account. Good, she said. Keep them clean. Don't move anything. Don't touch hers. That'll matter later. By noon that day, Gina had filed for divorce on my behalf. Irreconcilable differences. Full custody request pending. And that was just the start. Next move, a private investigator. I didn't need gossip. I needed facts. Proof. Paper trails. Texts. GPS history. Financial footprints. I wanted every single detail Tracy thought I'd never find. And while all that got rolling, I went home. Yeah. Back to the same house. Not because I wanted to forgive or forget, but because our son, Evan, still lived there. He was 7. And none of this, not the lies, Not the late nights, not the open marriage crap was his fault. I moved my stuff into the guest room. New locks on the front and back doors. Separate passwords for the Wi-Fi. Security cameras in shared areas. And a polite but firm memo. This house is now neutral territory. You play games, I press charges. Tracy was rattled. She tried to pretend things were normal. Cooked breakfast. Made coffee. Even wore one of the dresses I used to compliment, the red one that used to drive me nuts. Thought we could eat together, she said one morning, setting 2 plates down. I looked up from my laptop. Don't mistake silence for forgiveness. She tried to laugh it off. Just breakfast, Brian. No such thing as just anymore. I said. You made sure of that. She left the room quietly. The eggs got cold. Every now and then, she'd touch my arm in the hallway. Brush past me too close in the kitchen. Late one night, she came to the guest room door, bathrobe loose, eyes soft. We could talk, she whispered. I looked her dead in the eye. I already did. With a lawyer. She didn't knock again. From the outside, we probably looked like a couple trying to work through things, 2 adults sharing space, co-parenting, eating meals in awkward silence. But inside, I was done. And she knew it. She tried playing sweet for Evan's sake, but the cracks were showing. He asked why Mommy kept crying in the bathroom. Why Daddy didn't hug her goodnight. I told him the truth, as much as a kid could handle. Sometimes adults stop being kind to each other. But I'll always be kind to you. That night, he slept in my bed. Just curled up beside me like he used to when he was little. It reminded me what mattered. Why I couldn't afford to let emotion cloud the next move. Because this wasn't just about pain anymore. It was about protection. Of my son. Of my future. Of the last shred of dignity I had left. And Gina? She wasn't wasting time. Let the investigator work, she said. The more we dig, the better the odds. This is chess now, not checkers. So I waited. I kept calm. And deep down, I hoped Tracy would keep pushing, just enough to give me the final piece I needed. Because the next strike would be mine. I used to think divorce would be a clean break. You sign some papers. You pack a few boxes. Someone cries, maybe both. But eventually life just splits. Turns out, it's never that neat, especially when the other person doesn't want to let go. Tracy started stalling almost immediately. The document sat on the kitchen counter for a week. Then another. Gina kept following up, sending reminders, even offering to arrange a courier. Tracy always had an excuse. I'm thinking about it, she'd say. Or, I don't want to make a rushed decision. As if screwing another man and staging a faux intervention with his wife wasn't rushed. Then came the sudden warmth. She started bringing me coffee in the morning, asking how work was going, talking about memories from back when things were good. It was all strategic. A slow, sugary campaign to rewrite history or stall the future. I still believe in us, she said one night, standing in the hallway in that soft voice she always used when she wanted something. You're not perfect. But I was lonely. You were dishonest. I corrected. She looked down. It doesn't have to end like this. I said nothing. And that silence? It drove her crazy. Because Tracy hated not being in control. That's when the campaign went public. I started getting texts from mutual friends. People I hadn't heard from in months. Hey man. Tracy says things got misunderstood. She's trying really hard, Brian. Don't you think Evan deserves a united home? Everyone makes mistakes, dude. At least she's trying. I wanted to scream. Not because of what they said, but because I knew where it came from. She'd spun them her version. Left out the part where she deleted a voice memo mid-recording. Omitted Elliot. Sanitized every selfish decision until it looked like a misunderstanding. And now they were parroting her guilt trips back to me like backup singers. One night, I came home from work and walked into my guest room to find the door slightly open. I never leave it open. My desk drawer was pulled out. Inside were old printed photos of me and Evan. Stuff I'd tucked away when I moved out of the master bedroom. Gone. I checked the closet. She'd taken one of my hoodies. Nothing expensive. Nothing obvious. Just little pieces of me, slowly siphoned away without permission. I walked out and found her in the kitchen. Were you in my room? She blinked like I'd just accused her of murder. What? No. Try again. Her jaw tensed. I just wanted a photo of Evan. One with both of you. Is that a crime now? You didn't ask. I didn't think I had to. That's the problem. I said. You never think you have to. She folded her arms. You're overreacting. Get out of my space. I live here too. Then get your own damn drawer to raid. That night, I changed the lock on the guest room. Switched out the handle. Installed a separate deadbolt. Petty? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. Gina approved. Good call, she said when I told her. You're not being paranoid. You're protecting yourself. The PI was still working in the background. Quiet but thorough. Gina said he was making progress. That gave me hope. But emotionally, I was drained. Each day felt like a tactical war with a woman who still wanted control. Not love, not clarity. Control. She'd lost the upper hand and was scrambling to get it back, using whatever tools she had left. Guilt, nostalgia, friends, our son. I kept my distance. Mentally, physically, spiritually. The woman I married was gone. What was left was someone I didn't recognize. And honestly, someone I no longer feared. I was sipping my coffee, halfway through an email, when I heard the knock at the door. Not a neighbor's knock. Not a delivery guy. This one had a rhythm, firm, rehearsed. Official. I opened the door to a man in a blazer holding a manila envelope. Brian Callahan? Yes. You've been served. He handed it over, turned, walked off like it was nothing. But in that envelope? My world cracked again. Tracy was suing for full custody of Evan. And worse, she was accusing me of domestic violence. I stood there in the doorway, staring at the document. A restraining order. A request for emergency custody. Allegations that I'd displayed aggressive behavior, emotionally threatened the family, and was mentally unstable during separation. It was written like a thriller novel, with me as the villain. I sat down. My legs weren't working right. My phone was in my hand before I realized it. I called Gina. She didn't sound surprised. She's panicking, Gina said. You've taken control. She's trying to get it back the only way she knows how, legal leverage. But this? I asked. This is nuclear. She wants you out of the house. Out of Evan's life. And scared enough to settle. But we're not going to let that happen. That night, I moved into a motel. Temporary, but necessary. The court gave her temporary custody pending review. I had no choice. Follow the order or risk real consequences. It hurt more than anything so far. Not because of the lies, but because Evan would wake up the next morning and ask where I'd gone, and Tracy would fill the blank however she saw fit. But I stayed calm. For him. Gina kicked into overdrive. She filed an immediate response, requested an emergency hearing, and pulled every string she had to fast-track the court date. Meanwhile, my guy, the private investigator, delivered. He brought a flash drive to Gina's office. I sat with them as we watched. First video. Tracy with Elliot. Very much not. Just talking. Time-stamped, clear, affectionate. Recorded outside a hotel Tracy had told me was a self-care spa retreat. Second clip. Audio from their open marriage circle. Tracy saying, "Brian's too uptight to understand this. He still thinks marriage is some fairy tale. Let him rot in his fantasy." Third file. Doorcam footage from our house. Tracy entering my locked guest room when I wasn't home. Her taking my hoodie. The same one she told the court I'd threateningly held during an argument. It was all right there. Her lies. Her manipulation. Her game. The hearing came fast. Tracy walked in with her lawyer, smug, shoulders back, like she'd already won. I kept my face blank. Gina stood, calm as ever, and dropped the flash drive into the evidence bin like it was a coin in a jukebox. "Your Honor," she said, "this isn't just a custody case. It's a credibility case. And we have receipts." They played the clips. Tracy's face changed by the second. Denial, panic, embarrassment. Her lawyer tried to object, but the judge waved him off. When it was over, the judge leaned back, folded his hands. "I see no reason to grant sole custody," he said. "In fact, I'm inclined to revisit custody altogether. This order is dissolved, effective immediately." The gavel hit wood. Tracy flinched. I didn't say a word to her in the hallway. Not, "I told you so." Not, "How could you?" She looked at me once, just a glance. But that glance said everything. She knew. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I always thought courtrooms were places for justice. Turns out, they're mostly places for performance. Lawyers posture. Witnesses dance around questions. Even the furniture creaks dramatically. But that one day, justice actually showed up. The courtroom was quiet when we walked in. Tracy sat across from me, perfectly done up, like she was attending a PR shoot. High heels, pearls, the same expression she wore the day she told me she still loved me, just in a different way. Her lawyer looked less confident than last time. Mine, Gina, had a folder thicker than a phone book and a tone like steel. No smiles. No pleasantries. The hearing was for custody, financial support, and, based on recent developments, possible sanctions. The judge, a gray-haired man with sharp eyes and no patience for drama, went straight to it. "I've reviewed both sets of filings," he said. "Mr. Callahan has provided ample video, photographic, and testimonial evidence. Miss Callahan, you are now facing questions of perjury. Do you wish to amend your previous statement?" Tracy shifted in her chair. Her lawyer stood up, whispered something in her ear. She nodded once, stiff. "Yes, Your Honor," he said. "My client would like to amend." "In plain English?" She folded. The judge wasn't impressed. "I've seen enough to determine that the previous claims of abuse were, at best, exaggerated, and at worst, malicious and false. That is perjury, Miss Callahan. And while I will not refer criminal charges today, I am placing this ruling on permanent record." I didn't react. Not a blink. Inside, I felt something uncoil, like a rubber band stretched for months suddenly snapped free. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Callahan, pending final paperwork, I am granting you full physical custody of your son. Miss Callahan will have supervised visitation rights, scheduled to be determined." Her lawyer opened his mouth to argue. The judge raised a hand. "As for financials," he continued, "Miss Callahan's earning history and available accounts show some capacity for support. However, due to her conduct, I am setting modest alimony with a full review in 6 months. The child support amount will reflect her current underemployment, caused, I might add, by her own actions. Trace's face turned red. Not crying. Not shame. Rage. The kind of rage that comes when manipulation fails in public. And then, the judge added the finishing blow. I advise both parties, especially Miss Callahan, to refrain from involving third parties or mutual acquaintances in this matter moving forward. I've read the message logs. I know what's being said outside this courtroom. That was it. Gaveled down. Just like that, the storm passed. I walked out of that courtroom and felt nothing dramatic. No victorious music playing in my head. No grin. No swagger. Just quiet. A peace that had been absent for months. Maybe longer. Tracy left through the back door, probably to avoid the friends she told so many lies to. Because now, they knew the truth. I didn't need to say a word. The court record spoke loud enough. People talk. They share. They read. Within a week, mutual friends stopped texting. A few even sent quiet apologies. I didn't answer. It wasn't about pride. It was about boundaries. My job was done. Evan was safe. My name was cleared. And the woman who once tried to frame me? She was now legally tied to the truth, and to the consequences she created. Justice didn't come with fireworks. But it came. And that was enough. She showed up unannounced. I was outside mowing the lawn, nothing dramatic, just a regular Saturday, just me and Evan's soccer ball leaning against the porch, when I looked up and saw her. Tracy. Standing at the edge of the driveway, like she wasn't sure she belonged there anymore. She looked different. Not just the worn-down expression or the cheap department store purse. It was the way she carried herself. Lighter somehow, but not in a good way. Like someone who finally realized the ground beneath them wasn't as solid as they thought. I stopped the mower. Took out my earphones. Said nothing. "Brian," she started soft. "Do you have a minute?" I looked at my watch. "I've got 5. That threw her off. She smiled nervously, looked down at her shoes. "I know I don't deserve to even ask," she said. "But I've been thinking about everything. A lot. And I need to say this." I nodded. Not because I wanted to hear it, but because I figured it'd help close the book. "I messed up," she said. "I know that. I thought I was strong enough to live this progressive life. But I wasn't. I hurt you. I hurt Evan. And I've been trying to fix it, but I know it's not enough." She stepped closer. "I've been going to therapy. I cut things off with Elliot completely. I left that circle, all of them. I'm looking for real work now. I even stopped drinking." I waited. She kept talking. "I want to start over," she said. "Maybe not as husband and wife, but as partners. As co-parents. Friends, even. Maybe in time." Her voice cracked. "I still love you." I took a breath. "You made a choice, Tracy," I said, quiet but steady. "Over and over again. Not just one night. Not just one mistake. You chose other people, other stories. You chose to lie. To frame me. To take my son away. And now I get to make my choice." Her face stiffened, like she was bracing for a slap. "And I choose no." She blinked. I continued. "I'll co-parent. I'll protect Evan. I'll stay civil. But friends? No. We don't come back from what you did." She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. "And just so you know," I added, "my attorney's filing against Elliot's company. Corporate code violation, breach of conduct, HR exposure. You weren't the only one he manipulated. Your name won't be central, unless it needs to be. And your coworkers, the ones who helped cover for you, they might want to lawyer up too." She swallowed hard. You're going after all of them? I looked her dead in the eye. No, I'm going after accountability. You burned down a house, Tracy. The smoke doesn't stop at our porch. She was quiet after that. She tried one last line, a whisper almost. Do you think I'll ever earn back your respect? I didn't flinch. No. And I meant it. Not out of cruelty. Out of truth. She'd spent years pretending actions didn't matter as long as intention sounded poetic. But I'd lived the results. That was the last time we spoke face to face. She walked to her car slowly, shoulders slumped. No shouting. No dramatic exit. Just silence. And honestly, that silence felt like peace. It's a small 2-bedroom place, nothing fancy. The kind of apartment where you build shelves yourself and the blinds don't quite line up. But it's ours. Mine and Evan's. And for the first time in a long, long time, it feels like home. We moved in last month. I let Evan pick out his room. He went with the one that gets the afternoon sun, probably because it lights up like a soccer field at golden hour. We put up posters of his favorite team and a glow-in-the-dark map of the stars above his bed. Every night, he points to the same constellation and calls it Dad's Corner. I still don't fully understand it, but I don't need to. It's his way of saying we're good now. And we are. The court settlement came through last week. The suit against Elliot's firm didn't just stick, it hit. Turns out their HR department had a file on him a mile thick. Tracy wasn't the first. She wasn't even the third. With the evidence my attorney provided, they folded fast. I walked away with a substantial settlement, enough to buy our next home outright when the lease runs out. Enough to breathe easy for the first time in years. I didn't post about it. Didn't text anyone. Didn't even tell Tracy. Some victories don't need to be announced. You just live them. My days are quiet now. I drop Evan off at school, hit the gym, spend my afternoons consulting from home. Just enough work to stay sharp, not enough to forget what life's actually about. Some evenings, we cook together. Pancakes on Wednesdays. He insists there. Midweek energy food. Every other Sunday, he visits Tracy. I don't ask what happens there. He doesn't offer much. But I do know this, he always comes back hugging me tighter than when he left. As for Tracy, she's kept her distance. We communicate only through a shared parenting app. No late-night texts. No vague apologies. Just pick-up times and dentist appointments. I've forgiven her, not out of kindness but necessity. Holding on to what she did would have poisoned every moment I'm finally learning to enjoy. 2 weeks ago, Evan and I adopted a dog from the shelter. A shaggy mutt named Jasper with one floppy ear and a bark like a broken kazoo. He sleeps curled up against the bedroom door, like he's guarding something sacred. Maybe he is. I ran into Lauren, Tracy's sister, at the grocery store the other day. She hugged me. Told me I looked like myself again. Said Evan seemed lighter, happier. He's got his anchor back, she said. It hit me harder than I expected. I didn't set out to win. I didn't set out to punish. I just wanted the truth to matter again. For my son. For me. And maybe, selfishly, to prove to myself that dignity could survive disaster. And it did. Last night, Evan was fast asleep on the couch after movie night, popcorn still in his hair. I stood there a moment, lights low, the dog snoring, the dishwasher humming like a lullaby. And I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was mine again. And this time, I knew exactly what it took to earn it. The past will always be there, but it doesn't own me. Not anymore.